The only thing worse than racing Park Perimeter Loop in New York City is racing it 2 times in a row. Stage 2 of this month's Z-Racing series brought us to this route that doesn't look that terrifying on the course profile, but with 2 short and punchy climbs really puts your pain resistance to the test. And we could get a taste of how this race is going to develop right off the gate, with one guy immediately placing attack which put the entire group into a high intensity chasing mode. And you can even see on the minimap that the group is immediately spread out, which is quite unusual for the start of the race. Of course, as a single person breakaway it didn't have too much chance for a success, but here you can see that once we barely caught the guy, another one immediately places another high velocity attack. It was right before the first descent, so it didn't really have a chance to succeed either, but we are only about 3 minutes in right now and it is clear that this group is eager to fight. And after 3 kilometers, time has come for the first kicker and also first test of people's power of will. This is the hardest part of this course. The first climb is about 1 minute of high effort long, followed by a short descent and then another climb that has milder gradient but is about 2 minutes long. These are the kind of climbs I should be fairly comfortable with, but ultimately it will depend on what pace the guys will decide to do this climb with. And it was about 6 watts per kilo on the first lap, which is not a comfortable territory, but not something that cannot be done for a minute or so. So I arrived at the top of the first kicker basically at the front, but right over the crest of the hill another rider attacked, and shortly after the descent another one. We are now on an incline, so we are already doing about 5 watts per kilo, but 2 riders in the breakaway is something I do not want to risk anymore, so I'm increasing the effort even more to bring the group back to those guys. Well, at least to the first one. The second one is riding away pretty confidently, but once again, solo rider breakaway is not something I'm too worried about at this point, especially considering there is now a descent and the easier half of the course is in front of us. And sure, again, after the descent the race is back together, but boy, what a dynamic race! And once it looks like that we might finally get a little period of recovery, there's just another 7 watt per kilo surge over the small bump, and shortly afterwards another attack. And this is the first one that looks serious to me. The group probably didn't share my point of view here because no one was reacting, but I didn't want the gap to become too big, so I put another quick pull to increase the pace, which it did, but the gap wasn't getting smaller, quite the opposite. Right after the lap banner we all popped our power-ups and I expected the power of the group would bring the guy back, but at this point he is committed and the gap is getting actually even bigger. And it is quite clear now that all of us noticed that because people started to chase him like mad, and I needed to output almost 5 watts per kilo just in order to be able to hang on to the chasing group. But the guy is very persistent, big kudos for him for such effort. He managed to hold the gap until the first climb again, but then I guess the fatigue overwhelmed him, he got caught and the race was basically starting all over again with a full compact group. Not for very long though, because right after we caught the first guy, we had another surge from just another guy, and this is a serious one. We are chasing at 7 watts per kilo and the guy is gaining advantage to us, not losing it. And right before the top of this climb there's another guy surging, and that means that the podium of this race is getting further and further. And at this point I am not really ready to initiate the chase myself, I had to ride almost at the limit to stay with the main group. The good news is that the guy that attacked over the top quickly figured he won't be able to catch the first guy. The bad news is that it looks like that the rest of us might not be able to either. We talked with the guy at the front after the race and he said he is an injured competitive track runner who uses ZWIFT to maintain his fitness. And it all makes sense, but probably not a rider who should have been racing in this group. According to the old classification, he's an A+ rider, so yeah. At this point it is clear that the fight for the first place is already decided, so I shifted my focus on getting at least to the podium. I was ready to respond to any attack that would happen on the last small climb, and when it came I did. Nothing too significant though, and it looks like we might be getting sprint finish, which I like, but this one is uphill when I am a little disadvantaged. I got draft power up though, which was good, and I was thinking about where would be the best place to actually use it to get the most benefit. In the end, I used it right before the final descent, but then I made a blunder. There was a guy, you can see him in the blue jersey, who actually started sprinting very early, and I didn't actually notice him. It took me at least 5 seconds to react and he was too far away already. Anyway, I kicked up the sprint, but man, what a group this was. There's 11 riders doing more than 10 watts per kilo, and it looks like anything can happen. But after doing what I would classify as a very good race for myself, I crossed the line third. Hope you liked this video. If you did, subscribe and definitely watch the video in which I described my journey through a Sisu stage race. 7 races in one video. You can find it right here.